We're living in the very early days of a phenomenon that will reshape Christianity. It's been called the coming of the Third Church, a phrase based upon the history of Christianity. The first church, that of the early followers of Christ in the Eastern Mediterranean area, became the second church, one centered in Europe. The third church has no center because it is worldwide. For many in the Catholic Church, the first sign of the coming of this church was the Second Vatican Council, when photos of the world's bishops showed, for the first time ever, large numbers of African, Asian, Latin American, and Oceanian faces. In the half-century since, the phenomenon has grown. What's distinctive about this church? Just as Christianity in the West has been deeply influenced by the religious traditions and cultures that predated the preaching of the gospel in Europe, so too are the churches of Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Pacific, shaped by the religions and cultures that preachers of the gospel encountered there. That means that ideas of God, of holiness, of worship, of community, of ministry, of everything that makes a church, are gradually becoming different from what has been normal for more than a millennium and a half. Cherished and time-honored traditions and formulations of faith are being called into question. This is where the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector has something to teach us. The Pharisee says, "I give you thanks, O God, that I am not like the rest of men." He goes on to say how he obeys all the rules that have been handed on to him. His boast is that he does what everyone everywhere has always felt should be done. And he's right. Jesus does not accuse him of lying. He is a good man. He is, after all, trying to pray, and to pray with gratitude to God. His problem is that he thinks his own way of appearing before God is the only way. He cannot conceive of someone like the tax collector having a valid relationship with God, even though the tax collector is in the same temple, engaged in the same activity, prayer. The tax collector, on the other hand, seems barely a member of the people of God. His way of life makes him an outsider. He knows that he's different, yet feels that he too has some right to be in the temple, praying as best he can. The tax collector is an apt symbol of those churches that are not only trying to find ways to believe within their own contexts, but will over time change the way all Christians believe. Since Christians of the Third Church, especially in Asia, are often a powerless minority in their societies, they tend to view the role of the Church and its institutional forms from a different perspective from that of the West, where the Church is only now beginning to face the loss of political, moral, social, and intellectual power. As a religious minority, these Christians are faced with questions that Western Christians have not faced in centuries, if ever. As they struggle to find answers to new questions, some of those answers will appear inadequate to those who faced and answered different questions. Some will actually be inadequate as Western theological formulas and practices. Our theology of the Trinity, for example, may take now unforeseen directions as Christians in largely Hindu India try to explain what we believe about God. On various levels, the churches of the West, which are still in charge, have had mixed reactions to the coming of the Third Church. Sometimes there's rejoicing that the Holy Spirit is working in new ways and new places. Sometimes there's fear of the unknown and a refusal to allow others to make their own mistakes as the West made and makes its own. Many times, the phenomenon is ignored. Love it or fear it, a new church is being born. It will take several lifetimes, but eventually the church throughout the world will be different because of what is happening at the back of the temple. The future is there. It would be a shame to miss one of the biggest events in the history of Christianity because, like the Pharisee, We thought the way we are is the way to be. November 27 begins a new liturgical year during which we will reflect upon the Gospel according to Matthew. As an aid to that reflection, UCAnews.com has published another volume of In Season and Out homiletic reflections from the popular video series. See the advertisement on UCAnews.com for information about getting your own copy of In Season and Out Year A. Get extra copies to give as Christmas gifts.